Both hilarity and opinion with Jamie, Simon and Hutch. The Newcastle Comparison, live weekly on NUFC Talk Radio, on YouTube and in all your listening platforms. NUFC Talk Radio, the voice of the Toon Army.
Bienvenue! That means welcome everyone to Newcastle Comparison, wherever you may be in the world and however you may be listening in the world. Because we're going multimedia tonight, fellas. So, as ever, we're available as a podcast on all your podcast networks. We are, of course, live on YouTube on NUFC Talk TV, but we are also live across the Newcastle area, hopefully reaching out as far as possible on DAB Radio. We're on NUFC Talk Radio. Isn't that exciting, chaps? I can see you brimming with it, yeah. So, good evening out there to everyone driving to the 24-hour garage, whether it's an attack of the munchies or you need baby formula. And a big hello to all you truckers out there. My name is Jamie Smith, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Simon Carhill. Hello, Simon.
How you doing? Good evening. Welcome. Hello, everybody.
Canny not bad. And another person who I'm sick of the sight of this week, David Hutchington. Hi, Hutch.
Hello. How are you?
I'm fair to middling, yeah, apart from the cold that some sod gave us, but we'll come to that later. So, for anyone new to us or anyone who's drunk a lot in the last week, we are the Newcastle Comparison as seen on TV. We've been making some waves on national telly this last week, haven't we, lads?
We have, but we'll get to that later.
We'll get that. I mean, we've been on, well, I say we've been on quite a bit. I've been on TV quite a bit, but that's pretty much the way they operate when, if you look at boy bands, whenever they've got like a group or anything like that, they always put the best looking one front and centre. He tends to become the star and things and move on to his own thing. But I've got no intention of doing that for quite a while. So we'll give a potential wider audience just a recap of what it is that we do. We will discuss the last week for Newcastle United and how it's gone down for us personally, and then we'll compare it with relevant moments from the past for NUFC. And we'll have a little bit of a look forward to the week ahead as well. So hopefully, whenever things are a little bit down, we can think about maybe when things were worse, or even look at when things were a little bit better to cheer everybody up a little bit. Now, if you're watching live on YouTube, super chats are indeed open, so get them in if you want to add to the discussion. But I should add, and this is important for everyone, that now we're live on the radio, we're under strict instructions to watch our flinging flanging language, because it is before the watershed, and we could be going out live on radios where there's, you know, smaller people or easily offended people listening, and it's just not allowed. So anyone posting things that are riddled and riven with filth, be warned that we'll have to cleverly censor them when we read them out. But why not give us a challenge? See what we can do. Hutch, that might be a job that's going your way. So, right, Hutch, this goes double for you because you're often guilty of effing and jeffing, aren't you, when there's really no need. So I've written down a little crib sheet of words you can use as alternatives to the language of the gutter snipe. So before you take the mic, I'm going to just go through these, right? So if you want to make exclamations, suggestions include suffering cats, hell's teeth, fiddlesticks, shine a light, lummy, crikey, and help my boob. And you can make up your own as long as it's family friendly. If you want to insult somebody, you can call them a clumpy slipper, a corduroy cushion, a big dish of bobbins, Uncle Fish pants, Minceheed McGiggins, or Walter Wet Pipe. Again, create your own, but just keep it the right side of the line. If you want to put emphasis on something, so if you want to say if something was bad, words I would suggest are extremely or very. Have you got that, Hutch?
I'll try my best.
Remember, it's radio. Dead silence is a crime. Have you got that, everyone out there in the YouTube comments? I'll take that as widespread approval. So with that in mind, Hutch, because bad language might come to mind, let's start with the most recent moment what did you make of last night's game, which felt really, really, really late to me after the week we've had? Liverpool 4, Newcastle United 1.
Yeah, it was awful, wasn't it? It was absolutely terrible. Trying to not use bad language here, but I was thoroughly disappointed. Although I was actually so tired that it, it, I would have been a lot more angry had we not come back in the week that we just had. So started well. It's going quite well. It went really fast. Up the front, it was another one of those situations where you looked at it and went, "Oh, that's a weird team." Anthony Gordon up front again. Well, he scored. He did really well. And then looked that we might actually really take advantage of it. Harvey Barnes hitting the post from what was a really well worked free kick. And then Hugo Ekitike just decided to turn up and ruin our weekend.
Can I just say, I think it's pretty impressive that I've got a little timer here for how long the show's been running, and it was just about on 5 minutes when you started struggling not to swear. So well done for following the instructions, and a decent part of the those 5 minutes was the opening music as well. So I am going to be a little on edge around you, I'm not going to lie. But you said there it was a bit of a nightmare, Hutch, but the opening half hour was pretty good, wasn't it? Is that fair, Simon?
Yeah, absolutely. It was as you say, and as we'll talk about in a bit more detail in a bit. We had quite a busy week, but the game started with plenty of energy, and we were on top. But it was an unnerving feeling because we weren't taking our chances, and I thought this is just one of those games where we're going to play really well and then fade and lose. But we took the lead, and for a moment there was hope. But then, I think the strength of their squad and the players that they've now got in form, and Wirtz has been a bit of hit and miss, and there was a lot of it in the build-up about him having moments. He's not been worth his fee so far, yada yada. But he's had moments of quality. He had some moments of quality last night, and him and TK, I think, were very much the difference between us and them last night. Gakpo had some great moments as well, to be fair to him as well. So, I'm sure you're going to raise it, Jamie. You raised it on the group chat last night, but the difference between us and them is millions of pounds, and that showed last night. But we started very well, and I think the setup seemed to be right. But yeah, we unfortunately faded quite badly through the rest of the game.
Yeah. It was a formation that was questioned at first, but it seemed to sort of work, didn't it? And until it didn't. And that was the thing. I think what I said, it goes back to a point we made last week. When the Deloitte Rich table was out, Liverpool they have like £400 million every year more to play with than us when it comes to PSR. And that gets you players like Ekitike. We have chased Ekitike for years now. Both when he was at Reims. Was it Reimsy when we first tried to get him? And then he went to PSG. Possibly. And then when he left Frankfurt. And the reason Liverpool got him, and I'll argue the toss with anyone over this, is because they could give him 250k a week. And we just simply can't give wages like that because that would break our structure. Every signing who came in and all our best players would want 250k. They would want that. Hutch has just gone to charge his laptop up there, but I'm sure you'll not miss him. So a player like that just turned the game on a sixpence. The fact that it was him stuck in the throat a little bit. He's got one of them punchy faces, hasn't he? And that stupid haircut doesn't help it. But that is an absolute illustration of why Newcastle United are where we are, because we cannot compete for players like that. They won the league and they went out and spent, was it 250 million when it all adds up on Isaac, Ekitike and Wirtz? Was it 350? It seems like a long time ago, the headache of the summer.
Yeah.
And we just cannot do that. No. We cannot compete at that level of players. And this season, I think, is a hangover of the fact that we tried to compete for that level of players. Got caught in the PSR trap as Liverpool bought Ekitike and they took Isaac off us, and Chelsea bought João Pedro, and City bought James Trafford, and haven't missed anybody out who we wanted. Sesko and Buemo went to Man United, and we've kind of had to make the best moves that we could.
Yeah.
But still, you do worry that, I suppose, once he scored those goals, I wonder if we'd have got the half time at 1-0, if it would have been any different, or if we'd still have wilted horribly in the second half, because as soon as he got the second one, you just thought, oh, well, that's game over, didn't you?
Well, it was kind of strange, really, because we went 1-0 up, and I think many of us don't think Gordon is a sustainable option as the central striker in whatever system. But he scored, so it worked, but it feels like the fact that we didn't have an Ekitike or an Isaac on the pitch seemed to make a difference, because we were in the ascendancy for that period. So yeah, but I think what we struggle with against those great teams is when the game's that open, we've not as been defensively strong this year, and we probably missed the likes of Bruno to like win a foul and like take the steam out of their game in the middle of the park. Or Joe Linton to chop someone down. Like I think we probably missed a bit of that defensive midfield protection last night, and that gave them some space. So yeah, the squads make a difference, and I think that made a difference. So I think that they've got some good players on form at the moment, and we had a busy week, but we did well early on.
I saw someone put a message on X where they say that always seems to happen with Liverpool. We get a bit of a hold in the game, and then somebody has a blinder, whether it's an expected person like Salah or someone who normally doesn't. Like, I'm still bitter about the time I went there and Bruno Cheru scored twice. Ekitike this time. Michael Owen's got about 3 hat-tricks against us. It's always been the case down the years. But I suppose there's 2 ways of looking at it, right? Whatever goes wrong this season, or otherwise, the downside is not because we lost at Anfield, or when we play Man City at the Etihad in, is it the next away game? No, it's Tottenham next, but it's soon. It's not those sort of games, is it? It's the fact we've come to this period in a pretty crappy league position because of some other performances, and you're sort of hoping to rescue it by that. But if I can just flip that around, if you'd have said to me 10 years ago, we've not won a league game against Liverpool in 10 years. If you'd have said to me, like, you get a kind of secret door option, you can have one Premier League team and you will not beat them in a league game in 10 years, but you will beat them to your first ever trophy in a cup final. Not ever, but in my life. First major trophy of your life in a cup final. I would have snapped your hand off for that deal. But we've got that trophy now. We're about to give it up, and I would like to beat Liverpool next season, please.
That's such a happy clapper response, Jamie. How dare you?
And on that as well, Pika has put in the comments, yo, Eddie Howe, we've got some explaining to do, showing your face on here. First of all, Pika, I'd like to thank you for using a euphemism and saying an alternative word in there. But if you met me in person, you'd discover that I actually look a lot more like John Onorisa, the former Liverpool fullback, than Eddie Howe. So there we go. And Pika Hutch, of course, you're going to tell everyone what that means, don't you? Hutch.
Yeah, it's a reference. Well, it's actually spelled incorrectly, but it is a reference to Pokemon. Do you want me to give you a detail?
It's not Pokemon. Are you 5 years old? It's Latin for magpie.
Yes, Jamie, thank you. I know.
I didn't know that.
Well, right. Well, that's what I expected him to know, but he started talking about children's cartoons. And now, like, I can hear the sound of dials being clicked off across Tyneside that this is a bunch of weirdos. Is that the excuse you use when you get caught prowling around the park? Is it you're looking for Pokemons?
Let's not go there.
Wow. For the watershed, Jamie. How well?
Yeah, be nice.
It's not just language; it's the way you phrase things.
Right. Anyway, are you saying it's time to move on?
Yeah.
Right. I'll ask you no more questions tonight in Hutch, just in case something like that happens. But overall, what do you think league-wise? I mean, there's not a lot to really be optimistic about. Do you think we can still qualify for Europe?
No.
Europe?
Yeah, I'm going to say no. We are. I mean, I haven't even looked at the table after this
10th.
weekend. We will probably be 11th tomorrow, bearing in mind the Markham's play Burnley. We just have too many games, and every time that we have a good midweek performance, we put in something like that. I mean, one of the goals that we conceded against Liverpool was effectively because Malik Chow is just absolutely wrecked. There is no one else that you can put in that position. It does sound like Lascelles might be on his way out and hasn't played all season anywhere. Shaw is injured. Trippier play? He was playing, wasn't he? Because Livramento was out. Miley was either injured or unwell. Botman was either injured or unwell. And as a consequence, the rest of our defence looks wrecked. I mean, Byrne coming back from a serious injury. If Hall gets injured, we rely on Alex Murphy. And by Eddie Howe's own admission, we're not signing anyone, which kind of indicates that this is going to be a transitional season, and they're not expecting us to do anything dramatic.
Would you like to list any more defenders in the Newcastle squad? Because I think you got through just about everybody there. But
Emil Kraft is injured and
there we go.
Still not back.
You might be able to rotate. I agree about Chow because he started about 30 games in a row or something, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But now we've got Byrne and Botman as potentially another option. So I think you might be able to move that around a little bit. But we'll come to the week ahead in a bit. But it's easy to get a little bit down on the whole league thing. It's a full season. We'll see how things go. But we maybe need to take some points out of the month ahead. We never get anything at Anfield, but you've got to break that mentality. So, any other thoughts on Liverpool? Do we just want to leave it behind? Bad old Saturday night?
Yeah, I think because it was too much for a big call after the week that we had.
I mean, before your little speech at the beginning, I had lots and lots of words to describe Ekatika, but unfortunately,
well, I gave you some words, didn't I? Just what about
just want me to Ned Flanders it?
just
dude. He's I don't know, a Dilly of a Hooli or something like that. But Super Noodles head. Or I gave you words at the start. You've had plenty of time to think about it. But at the end of the day, like, you've also got to be pragmatic about this. You know, the kid and his agent are out to make money, as we all are. When we want to buy him the first time, obviously a young French kid's going to want to go to Paris. And then it's just that fact Liverpool can pay more. And because they can pay more, that means they're more likely to win things. And there's every chance, well, they're probably also going to struggle a bit to win the Premier League this year, not as much as us, but they'll be eyeing up the trophies that they're still in. And until we can bridge that gap in terms of financial income, that's not going to change for us. I think the criticism you can aim at them when it comes to Hugo Ekitike is if there was a point in the summer where Liverpool was saying, if you sell us Isak now, we will let you have him. There should have been more proactive there. And we could have had Ekitike slotting into the Isak role. That is a cock-up if it didn't happen. And we've said that many times. They should have sat down with Isak and found a solution as soon as he decided he didn't want to play at Celtic. It could be that it wasn't that simple and Liverpool just would never have given up either of them. As it proved, they got them both. But it's turned out as it has, and maybe next summer, it's looking ahead. We'll see what happens in the months intervening. we've got a director of football, we've got a chief executive now. Hopefully we'll have the system where we don't have such a slapdash time, but that's another show for another day. I mentioned Hugh Ekitike obviously couldn't resist the temptation to go to Paris. Neither could we? So that's where we've been all week, isn't it? We got back from France late on Friday night, having set off pretty much the middle of the night on Tuesday, Wednesday. And the adventures we had ended with us being on pretty much the national news, didn't it? And I'm not even lying here. So let's go back to the start. The start in Leeds last summer for me. As I remember, I think, Simon, you were up a hill in Yorkshire.
Yeah.
I think you were in hospital with a saucepan stuck over your head, or was it a bucket? Chamber
I
pot?
actually tried to get a ticket for Leeds to go with you in Martin, but unfortunately, my points allocation just didn't get me there. So I was with my wife.
Can you sound a bit more cheerful about that, please? But the whole thing anyway was, as any people may know, when it comes to time to get tickets for a European away game, EasyJet and Jet2 and all them, they've got some little bloke sitting there, and as soon as it comes out that Newcastle are away to somebody, they just hack the prices up through the roof. And so we needed to book up quickly to get to France. And the way we ended up doing it was that we booked to go via Schiphol, via Amsterdam airport, and we ended up doing that at that point in the morning. It saved us a couple of £100, but by going there, we still got to Paris at midday, and we thought we can easily cope with this. But then, and we did. We got up early. We got to Newcastle airport. We flew across to Schiphol. He has a little pic of us for anyone on YouTube. Look at that. That's pitch black, middle of the night, making our way across. And then we got to Schiphol airport, got a little beer in, as you do in the airport, took a little photo, thinking we're clever. And then things started going wrong, didn't they? Would one use like to pick up exactly what happened next?
Yeah, I can go with that. So, yeah, we got into Schiphol, which is, I don't know who's been there, but it is probably one of the biggest airports on the planet. It's massive. So we plan our route through that airport and get over to the gate. And to be honest, we're in decent time. So obviously the debate starts about, do we have another beer or not? And we find a little nice comfy seating area, which is a bar upstairs, because we've got enough time for a quick pint before we shuffle over for the next flight. We have our pint. We don't cut it too short, but we think we've left just enough time. We get down to the gate, and there's a classic departure time delayed sign on the old sign next to the gate, with very little information being shared. But when we get down there, we get told no announcements for half an hour. So we return back to the bar that we were sat in, having a very nice pint, to the smiles of the waitress who had served us the first time round, to say, "Why are you not getting on your plane?" "Oh, it's delayed." So we go and sit down again. And at that point, actually, we met some Rangers fans who were on their way to Porto. We got chatting to them. And to be honest, we were just having a nice time. Half an hour wasn't too much of a delay. We were all quite comfortable. Half an hour goes by. We've had another pint. We go back down. And then things start to unravel a little bit. So we're stood at the gate, and I think, Jamie, you went across and talked to the lady at the gate about it, didn't you? And she was starting
technical difficulties. You're about to get on a plane. Technical difficulties is up there with the words that you don't want to hear, along with loose bolt and boom.
Yeah, so that was uncomfortable. So we were actually fine for them to delay that as much as possible, to do whatever they needed to do to sort out what the technical difficulties were. So yet again, we returned to the bar. We had another pint, and there was another half an hour delay. And this time when we went back down to the gate again, the word cancellation started humming around the place. Jamie, I think you spoke to them again. And Jamie and I went over to the KLM desk because if things did kind of go south, we wanted to try and figure out as quickly the next route and how we could get from Schiphol to Charles de Gaulle. So we went to the KLM desk and then we got turned back because they said, no, Air France will sort this out. Go to the Air France desk. Just as they said that, they cancelled the flight and the whole of the flight came to the KLM desk. So KLM and Air France are partners. They were sort of like, it was all part of kind of one route.
And there was no Air France desk.
When we turned around, having been turned away, it was like that bit at the end of Happy Gilmore where Shooter McGavin pinches the green jacket and they're all chasing after him. The whole entire flight was just pelting towards us like a crowd of zombies. And we probably didn't turn on our heels quickly enough. We ended up pretty much at the back of that queue, didn't we? And the next hour, Hutch, where would you put the next hour in amongst the most stressful hours of your life? You've experienced some stress, haven't you?
I have experienced some stress. It was up there. I mean, it became a very stressful day. We'd also managed to pick up 2 or 3 other Newcastle fans who were also in a similar situation, but they were all traveling alone to Paris. And so as a consequence, they were like following us around while we debated what we were doing. There was some extraordinary prices for things. There was a discussion about getting the train down. We could either get a Deutsche Bahn train down, or we could get what was an Uber mooted at some point, which was going to set us back grand. Jamie's your wife suggested we drive, but by this point, I mean, I'd only had 1 beer, but you guys had like 4 or 5. So that the prospect of driving 7 hours to Paris was just not on the cards.
To be honest, screeching up at that ground in a hired car was not something that appealed to me, regardless of how many beers deep I was. But that was never really an option, was it?
So then we kind of like started walking out of the airport with the intention of checking out, what the train situation was. We're kind of like, I got a bit of a fear that if we walked out of that airport, we just weren't coming back in. And it was going to cost us significant money. So I think at that point,
cost us significant money if we found ourselves roaming the streets of Amsterdam with no real purpose.
A watershed, Jamie. A watershed.
Well, I'm just saying, Amsterdam's a culturally appealing place. You can spend a lot of money there.
Anyway, you decided to have one last go at some serious charm, and do you want to take it from there?
Yeah, so like I went back to the desk the zombie Happy Gilmore crowd had cleared by then, and I decided, don't get on any high horse or anything, just get over to the desk and just try and talk to them like a human being, and we got the one nice person, the 2 nice people that we met, the girl we spoke to and the lady behind the desk. And she gave us an option, didn't she? Which was she can get us to Paris, but number 1, we had to fly via Zurich. And number 2, we would end up in getting into Paris at 10 to 7, which gave us 2 hours and 10 minutes to get from the aeroplane to the game. And so how long was that taxi off the runway at Schiphol, honestly? And all the time we were sweating and getting angry, and it's horrible, innit? Because you're sitting in a plane seat, there's nothing you can do about it. But we did get a really nice Swiss chocolate. I would recommend Swiss A massively for that. But we got really nice Swiss chocolate, and we got there on time. We had a 20-minute turnaround between the flight leaving for Paris. And at one point, and this is true, Hutch, because Simon was sat slightly ahead of us on the plane. And at one point you said to me, he's just let a woman out in front of him. I'm going to smack him.
Great mates.
We had 20 minutes, and honestly, it didn't happen like this, but it genuinely felt like he just let someone out, grabbed their Zimmer frame for them, picked up their bag, and was casually helping them to a different gate. And we had 20 minutes. But
Right.
first of
okay.
all, right? First of all,
He stood back and let a lady out in front of him.
But to be fair, right, like you said, the plane from Amsterdam to Zurich was delayed by 5 minutes. We had 25 minutes, which is what the lady said. You'd have a 25-minute layover. She put us right at the back of the plane.
Yeah.
So that it was literally the last row in the plane. And there was only one exit for debarkation. And so every time someone was letting someone out, it was like, this is holding us up. This is holding us up. We have to get there. And then Simon did it. And I just...
It was just being polite. Like,
right.
It was going to make very little difference in the end.
I am absolutely all for chivalry. However, there is a time and a place. And that was medieval Europe, Simon.
So the thing is, listeners, the message here is, doesn't matter how much of a stress or a hurry you're in, always keep your manners. It's the British way. And remember, you're representing Britain abroad. But we got there and we sprinted off that plane. Like a bit like the Newcastle defence look during any counter-attack this season, just absolutely pelting it through the airport. And it turned out we were only at about 2 gates over.
Yeah, it was
we get to Paris. That took off on time, got us into Paris on time, if not a couple of minutes early. And then we had to navigate a route to the Parc des Princes, didn't we?
Well, first of all, we had to navigate a route out of Charles de Gaulle Airport, which was also a maze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But sorry, go on, Joe.
I see a we here. But let's be honest, the conversation we had was a conversation between me and Simon to plan a route from Charles de Gaulle to the ground, which ended up an overground, a sort of fast train from the airport, then changing to the Paris metro, then finding somewhere to dump our bags, then getting to the ground from there. And the comparison I made, Hutch, was that you and our other mate were stood around like the other two from East 17. Which I'm sure is a topical reference, but
as you've already said, Jim, you're the front man. Simon writes the songs. We're just there for the ride, mate.
Yeah.
You're just the bass player.
Deck candy.
I'm the drummer, actually, but yeah.
Yeah, that's true. You are the drummer. Yeah.
Which being an actual drummer. But Simon, the plan to navigate Paris, do you want to take that?
Yeah, to be fair,
the airport's northeast of the city and the Parc des Princes is in the west. And that's a big old city to get across.
It was a race across the city, yeah. To be fair, I could actually speak quite highly of the Parisian transport system because it did us some massive favors on the way through the city. So, first of all, we got and I remember the signs vividly. I think I've been dreaming about them in my sleep since we went through this route. But yeah, we got the RER straight into town, which if anybody's been to Paris and gone into city centre from Charles de Gaulle, that's pretty easy. That's pretty smooth. But what was really good about it was the timing. We literally walked down the stairs and it was pretty much there. We jumped on that. And then we figured that what we did instead of going to our hotel was find a bag drop. And we'd leave our bags halfway between the ground and the hotel because we didn't have time to go to the hotel and get across town. So we found a metro line that went round the north of the city, round to a bag drop that was not far away from the Eiffel Tower. And then we'd get a taxi from there. So I started looking up Ubers, and they were pretty reasonably priced. So we, it all went to plan. So we got off the train from airport to the metro, found the metro line, got on the metro train, and then that again appeared just as we were coming down the stairs. Jumped on it. Like 5 stops around to where we need to drop off the bags. Bag drop went smoothly. Got out the bag drop and then I ordered the Uber. And I've never stared so hard at an Uber driver and their location on an app So Paris streets are pretty tough to navigate by a
There
motor
was a
vehicle.
couple of points. There was a couple of points where we stood on a street corner, were pretty much accosting random cars.
Yeah,
And
I think you flagged down just a general Parisian going about their day and just nearly threw money in their face to take us. But yeah,
Hutch had someone up by the lapels because it let a woman out in front of him, I think.
and
But
he
there was a
instantly learned French.
There was a bin man coming down the street that we expected this Uber guy to come down, and he was going so bloody slow.
It's a bin wagon. He's got to pick up the bins.
And we were like, the Uber driver's going to come up behind the bin wagon. He's going to get stuck. Like, it was starting to get pretty sweaty, wasn't it? But good old Armin. So this guy turned up in a Toyota, like, mini car. And I was like, is that even going to fit us all in it? But anyway, yeah, we piled in and then we took off through the Parisian night. And I was in the front seat and my life was flashing before my eyes. Like, this must have been just normal driving within Paris. But there was one like junction where he drove. I thought, the night bus in Harry Potter when it like shrinks and goes through all the traffic. It felt like that at one point. I felt like he'd reduced the size of his vehicle to get through this space, and I was literally eyeballing people like, "You've got blue eyes, you've got brown eyes," as we're going through the traffic and getting like,
you've got wide, scared eyes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I could smell the contents of their cars, and but he was brilliant, to be honest. And like, he dropped us like in bang on the right place, gave us like little steer when we got to the ground, and then it was just us out of the car running into the ground trying to get there on time. And we were looking at the clock, like, and the minutes going up and then back down in terms of time we had left to get to the ground. I think we got there with we got to the edge of the ground with 7 or so minutes to spare.
Yeah. And we said, for anyone who doesn't know, there was instructions from the club saying, it can be a bit dodgy at Paris Saint-Germain games. Remain incognito, be careful, get to the Newcastle end. And because it was so close, I was literally running around screaming, Newcastle, Newcastle, at people
you were
pointing around.
Yeah.
And they're pointing us to the away end, and I was worried about a lot of checkpoint Charlies, but basically it was scan your ticket here, show it. We had to show the first couple of guys that we did have tickets, scan it there, get a quick pat down there, and then we were straight in to the seats. And literally, and I was going to describe this, Simon, as being like a Top Gear challenge, but you blew that out of the water by describing the taxi as a sort of Toyota mini car. Which
Sorry, yeah. I just remember saying Toyota on the UV map there, but yeah.
But it was like one of them where, where they arrive sort of with 30 seconds to spare or whatever, they all arrive within 10 seconds of each other, and you think, this is a bit of editing, this is done for effect. But I can swear on all of our children, which is what 7 kids between us. Yeah. We arrived in that ground. We ran to the top of the stairs. We had to come right down the stairs because we were at the front. And as we approached the staircase, the Champions League music was actually playing.
Yeah.
And the teams were lined up. And it was like a welcome just for us, wasn't it? We'd arrived bang on time. And the relief and the emotion, like, you just couldn't have brought us down. I think once we got those seats, it was just one of the best feelings, because we went from that point in Schiphol Airport where we thought we are not going to make it, through those flights where we were sweating, banging on the pilot's door, telling him to get his foot down, screaming at women for having the goal to want to get off the plane in their turn. And we were there. We were at the Parc des Princes. We were at the Champions League game. We lost a few out. We were supposed to arrive in Paris in midday. We got there at 10-7. But sometimes doing it the hard way makes it feel all the more worthwhile. And then we were stood there.
We've actually, sorry, Jamie, just to confirm that we've actually missed off the bit where we got the text message to actually confirm what our flight time should have been, and would have got basically into it. We should have been getting into Paris if we'd gone with Air France's replacement flight. We would have got into Paris for the start of the second half.
Yeah,
but instead we made it to the game with like 5 minutes to spare.
And there was a point where we were resigned that the only way we were getting to Paris was to take that flight and miss the game. And then, as we said, we were there until Friday, and we just have to try and make the best of a bit of a holiday. By, even though it would have been hanging over our heads that we'd missed the game, the reason we were there for. So there we go. We even had time for a photo. That's pre-kickoff, isn't it? And,
Yeah, just.
you know, this. I mean, you can't really tell how sweaty we are in that picture.
I feel like you can with my hair.
Panicking, sitting on several planes, and pelting through the streets to get in the Parc des Princes, which is a magnificent stadium. I don't know why there's such a big unnecessary gap behind the goal. You normally get that with grounds that have been built for something else, like West Ham's. But we made it, and then we'd been in our seats and they kicked off. We'd been there probably about, in total, we'd been at our seats for about 5 minutes, and PSG got a penalty, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so, like, it was kind of a surreal feeling. It was just kind of like we were so relieved and happy at being there. They got that penalty, and I don't know about you boys, but I just kind of felt, well, yeah, of course, okay,
Yeah.
Whatever, we'll go with that. I don't think we would turn up to this game expecting to get much from it. PSG are the reigning European champions. I know they've not been playing brilliantly recently, and they've had a lot of mixed results, but I think we knew it was going to be a massively tough game. And yeah, like conceding that penalty was just like, okay, we're here. We've had an ordeal. We're happy to be here. Okay. And then Nick Pope saves it, and we're just into the game after that, aren't we? It's like we were almost not emotionally connected to the game. We hadn't had much build up. We're just relieved to be there. And then Nick Pope saves the penalty, and then it's like, oh yeah, the game. Okay, right, let's go again. And that was a brilliant moment, to be fair.
So, Choppy 698.
I'm just bringing Choppy's comment up. Was this the one you were going to refer to?
Yeah, they were fantastic.
Yeah, they were good, to be fair.
Sorry,
go on, Jamie.
They created a brilliant atmosphere from start to finish. There was a guy with a drum just next to us, and sometimes I kept feeling me like hips and shoulders going a little bit, like, you know. And I thought, oh, but what were you going to say there, Si?
Yeah, he's added the word "behave themselves." Yeah, just the usual, like, home away fan waving and hand gesturing in a friendly pre-watershed way. It was fine. It was a great atmosphere by them, to be honest. Like a proper Champions League European night kind of atmosphere, and it was. This may be a bit tenuous, but we went to they had all the massive flags at both ends of the ground, and we went to see some of the sights the next couple of days over the game, and like the atmosphere was like it was like one of those battle scenes you've seen from Waterloo with all the big signs and all that kind of the big waving flags and shouting and stuff like that. But because of the policing, we saw no problems whatsoever. It was literally at a distance between some netting and some friendly waving and exchanging of details through a netting. So yeah, it was just a good atmosphere.
Haven't heard any reports of anybody getting any trouble in the build up to the game, or and certainly obviously during the game you couldn't, because we were well segregated. After the game, they kettled us out, didn't they? The police kept us out of the way, and there was nobody about. There wasn't any sort of ominous PSG fans hanging about the street. I think a draw is always a bit of a benign result, and there tends not to be any high emotions for people to kick off afterwards. But we got, but we're sort of skipping ahead a little bit, aren't we? Because, to be honest, you said it. You know, Nick Pope saved that penalty, and it was brilliant. But PSG scored about 5 minutes later, and then they just had at us. And there was a point where I was thinking, is this going to be sort of 3-4, 5-0, the sort of game where just you really do think maybe I'd been better off.
Yeah, I thought we looked like a mess. like the five because we'd seen. I think we did our typical name the team on the way to the game on the metro, which was probably the most unusual place we've done the team game. But
don't advertise yourselves as Newcastle fans. Shall we do the team game? Nick Pope.
yeah. But yeah, it was. The formation didn't seem to be working. Nobody seemed to be getting hold of them. Like they seemed to be overrunning us. It felt like we were not in control at all in that first 10, 15 minutes. Obviously they scored. They had a penalty. They scored during that time. And we just thought, yeah, it's not going to be the best game this. But then slowly we started to get into it, didn't we?
Couple of other important saves by Nick Pope. I think Dan Burn played really well and got the official UEFA Man of the Match award, the little silver Champions League ball.
Deserved.
Pope was maybe honourable mention for that.
I thought Joe Willock, to be honest.
Yeah, he had a great game.
That's the thing as well. There wasn't really a turning point, I don't think, whereby we went from being a team that was looking like getting overwhelmed to being a team that looked like the more likely winners as the game went on. It wasn't like a big tackle went in or, you had that missed penalty at any phase. They just sort of grew into the game.
Yeah, it developed.
And I think, was it 1 minute of added time on the first half?
There was a point in the game, it was about 40 minutes, where something similar happened with the Miley incident, but at their end, and it just got waved away. And I think that was the point where I kind of changed, to be honest. And at that point, we kind of started looking like we were going to go at them. And that's when, like you said, just before half time, we scored.
Yeah.
There's a comment in the chat that says a French newspaper gave Miley 4 out of 10. And to be honest, he in the first half, he looked like he was struggling, but then in the second half, he really got into the game and he was intercepting balls rather than trying to chase people down. And so he had very much a game of two halves. Probably a 3 out of 10 in the first half, but then a 7 out of 10 in the second.
I think Le Creep, if that's a paper, that's normally really harsh with its marks, isn't it? Like they've never given a 10 out of 10. But he did. The Miley incident you're referring to was the penalty, which was dodgy as hell, whereby it bounced up, hit Barcola on the arm, then bounced off and hit Miley's outstretched arm there while he was running. They gave that as a penalty, which is a mad symmetry to the last time we were there when we had that dodgy Tino Livramento penalty in a couple of years ago. And then a similar thing happened at the other end with MORTEM and one of their defenders, and they just didn't even give it a look. So they were angry about that. If you look, there's footage, and Dan Burn and Jason Tyndall are still at the ref at half time, even though we've levelled, even though they didn't score the penalty, about the decision. But as I say, we were level by then. 1 minute of injury time, I'm sure, went up, and we were like, oh well, 1-0 at half time's not the end of the world. Tonali knocks a free kick forward. Burn heads it on. It was at the exact opposite end of the ground to us, and we were in the very front row, so it wasn't the best visual. But then you're seeing him knee slide, and it soon dawned that Joe Willock had scored his first goal in about 11 months. And I mean, no one saw that coming, did they?
No. But like Hutch is saying, he's been playing really well. I think he was good in the Liverpool game, to be honest. Like he's back to the Joe Willock that carries the ball up the pitch, that makes distance and was running, doing a lot of running. And I think he did a lot of work in midfield against Paris, and good for him. Like I've always liked Joe Willock. Like when he was on form, Joe Willock is a really good, dangerous player for us. He's a player that we don't have the like of in the rest of the squad. So I think it's good when he's on top form. He's just not been there for a long time, so it's good to see that again. But I think he was, as Hutch said, one of the best players in Paris.
Well, he also had a disallowed goal, didn't he, in the second half? And
which we didn't see.
He tore their defense. So he tore that. We saw him tear their defense apart. However, because we were on the front row, there is also a barrier where the press sit behind, and this barrier is ridiculously big. It doesn't need to be as big as it is.
It's
But as
the
a
advertising
consequence,
hoarding. It's
Yeah,
the
it's
advert.
a barrier and then the hoarding. Yeah,
so as a consequence, we saw Joe Willock skip past their defence, run, and it looked like he'd got a corner or something because he just kicked it. But then all of a sudden he's doing a knee slide at the other side of the pitch. And it's like, oh, we scored. Way! But
yeah.
apparently it was offside. Apparently.
He didn't celebrate. He just sort of ran off and went, oh, and because I thought he'd missed. But apparently
Yeah,
it was in
so-
the net. And it must have been offside because that's the thing. It used to be if you were at the game, you got the best take. But now, if you're not at the game, you can see endless replays and consult
Yeah.
Twitter and stuff like that. And I'm assuming the fact that there hasn't been a widespread kick-off, it was not offside. I think it was offside. The moment probably that we'll think back on, if we do look back on any regret in this game, is what, 90th minute, Harvey Barnes.
Oh,
So Anthony Gordon and Harvey Barnes came on, and Gordon and Hall just kept skinning Marquinhos down that right hand side. didn't they?
yeah, he was struggling. Yeah,
Oh, there was a few times, and it never quite came off. But this time, Gordon cut inside, squares it to Barnes, and just the world stopped for a second. What Harvey Barnes does, isn't it? Last minute winners, and it just looked like he just had to bang it, and it was in.
Yeah.
And
it came to him quickly. If you see on the replay, it comes off his shin, so he's just not got on top of it, and it obviously hits the stanchion.
It comes quickly, but it's also quite high.
Yeah,
well.
exactly. It's really awkward height. Oh, but he's so close to the goal, though. Like you think he possibly could have done better there, but yeah, that's the only moment where you think, could have nicked it. But I think the draw was probably a fair result, and we were so pleased to walk away with there with something. I think, and obviously qualification into the next round.
I think going into this group stage, before we played anybody, if you'd have given us the option of qualification for the playoffs with home advantage in the second leg because we finished in one of the higher positions, everybody would have taken that, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
It's obviously we started the day in the automatic qualification zone, and I think you can look back at this and say, you know, those leads we lost in Marseille. Marseille obviously went out altogether, so perhaps that's where we should have done better, losing the lead then, or we were 2-1 up in Leverkusen. I think holding on to that lead would have meant we got through automatically, or ifs and buts. But when we look back across this season, I think the Champions League will be one of the better elements of it. We're in the playoff round, and we have Qarabag, an Azerbaijani team, and I'm going to go on record as saying this. That is not in Europe. Azerbaijan is not in Europe. For anyone who hasn't seen, Newcastle's trip to Azerbaijan, to Baku, will be the longest trip that any team has ever done in the Champions League history.
Yeah.
And we bookend that with a game against Man City.
Yeah.
So it's not a bad draw, is it? They got hammered 6-0 off Liverpool. They're one of those smaller teams that are punching a little bit. We've got home advantage in the second leg, so even if we do have to sort of nail it a little bit and defend it out over in Azerbaijan, that's okay. Can you see in there, it's a 6-hour flight. Now, Hutch, you were quite close to being on that flight, weren't you? Because we spent, as I said, the next 2 days having a brilliant time around Paris. But your family got onto you saying, do you fancy a week in Baku? And I don't know, were you tempted?
No, at no point was I tempted by that trip. Certainly bearing in mind you're also in my ear saying, but if we get past Qarabag, there's the potential that we could play Barcelona. And I have the fear of actually having that conversation with my wife, bearing in mind I haven't even checked my bank account to see what I spent in Paris. But it's not going to be be a small sum. So the thought, the prospect of going to Baku is an absolute zilch. But my brother-in-law is going, and fair play to him. I hope he has a wonderful time.
Yeah, apparently it's a really nice place. I think as
Yeah.
someone just saying that, Kenny, saying beautiful place. I heard. I bumped into your sister-in-law at Tesco in Newcastle the other day, Hutch, and she was saying she's always wanted to go there. And I think it would be a great little adventure, but just with so much else going on. As I say, my eyes are on Barcelona. I don't think it's that expensive to get there, although prices might go up now they know they've got Newcastle. Just a very quick one. Kenny's also saying, didn't they beat Chelsea? Well, we've just researched that in deep. They drew 2-2 with Chelsea.
They did.
In
Chelsea away.
in Baku. And I would take, a draw there. I think there's a banana skin because it would be extremely humiliating to go out to Karabakh. Although they're there on merit, that's the risk. That we just fatigue it out and they somehow get past us on penalties or whatever. But I think they're very beatable, and we'll get Barcelona or Chelsea if we do beat them. The head says that Chelsea would be an easier option in a two-legged knockout, would be more likely to get past them. But my heart says I want to go to that new camp. And Hutch is saying, the conversation with the wife, the cost and how much we spent in Paris on cheese and wine. You've got a credit card, haven't you?
Well, I mean, the new camp is it's a stadium of dreams, really, isn't it? Like it's one of those things when you're a kid, like playing video games and watching TV and all the rest of it, and it's one of those that you would absolutely love to go to.
It's a bucket list ground, isn't it?
It is similar to when I went to AC Milan a couple of years ago. You guys weren't up for it. I went by myself. Again, transport troubles, bookended with transport troubles, a massive flight delay, which meant I didn't get into Turin to get any food whatsoever. Did have a glass of wine before going to bed early next day across the Alps. Well, train where I could see the Alps into Milan. Had a great time in Milan, one of the hottest days of the year, despite the fact that the previous day was absolute torrential rain. And then rode off my car on the way home. So
yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Oh God. Oh yeah.
So, people sitting there thinking, "Where's this story going?" And you make us sound quite bad, but we had a full discussion that we'd go to Dortmund for that group.
Yeah,
stage.
we did.
We did. Yeah.
But and then you were like,
well, like I said,
the thing is, it's a bucket list ground, is the San Siro, as is the Camp Nou. Kenny's saying, like we've said, we'd take Conference League, which I would, above nothing next year because it's so winnable, and we'll go. You'll go madder places than Baku. Karabakh would be a big player in the Conference League, but I would like to get in there for it being winnable while we're in the Champions League, which I don't think is winnable for us, but I would like to be pleasantly surprised. While we're in the Champions League, I want to go to big grounds like the Parc des Princes, which was amazing and vibrant. And I'd like to go to the new camp because it could be that we don't get back to the Champions League for a few years. And while we're there, I think this is what it's about. It's about going to the big grounds. I would love to go to Azerbaijan if annual leave and family commitments and money were all not things. But, there's a bit of a... That'll take a bit of a Euro Millions win between now and then, for all of that to fall into place. But Barcelona's in my eye, and then when it comes to Conference League, you probably just you've got to pick and choose the games that are doable, and you have a different kind of experience. I think in the Conference League, you go somewhere what is a bit interesting and maybe isn't as much of a football super powerhouse. And that's you've kind of gone ahead a bit there, Hutch, because we were talking on the way back about because we had that rush to get the game. The game was great. We ended up out till 3-4 o'clock in the morning getting a meat and cheese platter and croque monsieur and a lot of wine and beer in a cafe. And then we just spent the next couple of days doing things like that and going up the Eiffel Tower and refusing to pay the entry money to the Louvre and having to wander up MORTEM. And you consumed vast amounts of history at Les Invalides, didn't you, Hutch? And I had to drag you out so I could go to sleep. And also, like, the TV got wind because I was on Radio 5 early the next morning to talk about the game, and I told them about our adventure there. And we ended up on Sky News and Radio 5 and stuff, and that's all on our socials if anyone's interested. The interview that we did, Simon's got a very little thing that's a mobile phone with us all on Sky. There you go. No,
My bad.
And it's gone.
it's gone, but we'll get that back in a moment. But right, but we managed to make the most out of it. It's all out on our socials, as I say. We are NUFC Comparison on X and Blue Sky and Instagram. If anybody wants to give us a little follow, you can watch all that stuff there. So, especially me, that's mainly me, but you're in the background of one of them resisting the urge to make hand signals at me.
That was tough. Yeah, we were literally sat behind you in the restaurant while you were doing that interview, and we were talking about doing a grandstand-esque fight in the background while you were getting interviewed just to make things entertaining, but we resisted the urge. We just ate bread. Mostly.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you for that responsibility.
I had no worries.
But yeah, so overall, a great few days out in Paris, and we could just relax after it, having made the game. We had a good look round. We had all right weather. We had a lot of drink, and our flight home was direct in Newcastle, and that went very smooth. And I said on the way back, this is probably up there. This is potentially the best trip ever. We did not just for the game, because if you just talk about the game, the Carabao Cup finals out on its own, winning that cup. But in terms of the trip, the time you've had there, and I thought as we move into the comparison stage, because we've got half an hour left, we better do something that's in the title of the show.
Before we do, can we just give a quick shout out to Eli?
Oh yeah, good shout. Yeah.
Yes, we did, didn't we? Yeah. So we ended up in what was it called? The British bar we were in till 5 o'clock the next morning.
Was it British? Was it not Le Meze? Or is that a different one we were in? Because that's the one we were talking about Jim Morrison had been to.
Basically, listeners, the time is 2 o'clock in the morning, and we just had a meal. And
an excellent meal, by the way.
An excellent meal. And we were making our way home. And at this point, we kind of dap into a cafe where we have a little bit more food and another bottle of wine shared between four of us. And we said, right, let's go home and get some sleep because we have a long day tomorrow followed by a flight. And the suggestion was made, okay, but if we find a pub, we'll just dap in for one day.
If we have to walk past one, it was called the Mazet, not the Mazet.
So we exit this restaurant, this bistro. We turn left. We turn left again to go up the street that we're supposed to. Simon, yet again, has his face inside a map. He is literally living in Google Maps at this point.
Yeah.
And Martin goes, there's a pub there. So consequently, 3 hours later, we eventually made it home. But we ran into a lovely young American chap called Eli, who's moved from San Francisco to Paris. And his bucket list stadium was St. James's Park.
Yeah,
we had this conversation.
Yeah,
he was a great kid. He was a
Chelsea fan.
He was a Chelsea fan because his great granddad played for Chelsea, and he looked him up for us and said, "This guy." And he was from San Francisco, out there doing a semester in Paris. He'd been there 1 week, didn't speak any French, and he was just living his best life out at 2 o'clock in the morning, hung out with us all night until yon time, and just top kid. Bit of a singer guitarist, quarterback back at home, looked a lot like Prince Charming from Shrek, we all thought. And he said he'd give us, we pointed him in the direction of this pod and said, tune in and we'll give you a bit of a mention. So there it is. What was his last name, Hutch? You took his details.
I did take his details. If you give me 30 seconds, I'll pull that information up for you.
Good job you're prepared. It's maybe
It
not
is.
that one.
It's Eli Hughes.
Eli Hughes. So, hello, Eli. It was great to meet you, and you're welcome in Newcastle any day. And I'm sure you'll return that favour to us if we wanted to go to San Francisco.
Absolutely.
There's a couple of comments here, and I would just reiterate: Azerbaijan is definitely not in Europe. It was part of the Soviet Union, and there'll be some money there, and UEFA have got involved in it because of that. But we're on the radio now, so we've got to be extra careful with the libel. Right. Anyway, comparison. So Hutch, I was going to say best trips we've ever been on. So you mentioned Milan. It was the same week we battered Sheffield United 8-0, and you nearly didn't come to that game with me because you were in such a huff about writing your car off, and you forgot to tell your wife you were also going to Sheffield, didn't you?
Well, after I wrote my car off, I was slightly concussed, and I completely forgot that I was supposed to be going to Sheffield United. And my wife wasn't very happy about that situation. But I went, and we did watch Newcastle batter Sheffield United. So all's well that ends well, and me and my wife are still together.
That was boss number one that you annoyed. But I think we should point out that you'd not been able to go into work.
Well, like I said, I was concussed, and it didn't help that we were on the front row of the Sheffield United game, and I did get text messages from my boss. He's never mentioned it since, so I don't know whether they were kind of like speculative text messages, but I suspect that he did see it. But anyway, it was a Sunday. I turned up for work on the Monday.
Yeah,
possibly shouldn't have, but it was fine. All was well that ended well.
And anyone who's ever met you would not know the difference between you being concussed and normal you. But
I suspect I might actually still be concussed, to be fair.
But I've have to heartily endorse Wazza's comment here. Thank you for the super chat, Wazza. Fun Jamie starts here. Get him to the game, and there's a bullseye there, which I don't know what the target would be for me to travel to Azerbaijan, but if it's what the people want, my wife and boss would have to understand, surely.
Good luck with that one. Good luck with that one.
Thank you, Wazza, for the sentiment and the super chat, and let's hope it snowballs from here. Will I set one of them buy me a coffee things on our X profile? So, Simon, Hutch, are you saying that's potentially your alternative best ever trip, going to Milan on your own and having a car crash? Because you...
obviously not, but...
Going to Sheffield and getting wrong off everyone in your life? That's...
Well, to be fair, there's been a few of them, because we went to Nottingham and I got wrong off everyone as well.
I remember that one as well.
But no, any trip with you guys, I think Simon's about to talk about Dortmund, but he's going to have to keep it clean. I also had a great time, actually, in Ireland a few years back when we went. I've been to see two friendlies in Ireland. Once against St. Patrick Athletic, or it was St. Patrick something. But the other one against...
this is a great memory for you, because you can remember the team's name and everything.
It's the detail that matters.
To be fair, it was the Bohemians game, because my wife is half Irish. She's got family over there. I went and basically spent the time with my wife's cousin's boyfriend of the time. However, is now deeply in trouble, so I'm never going to mention his name.
Jesus,
Um,
what alleys you going down here, eh?
This is
But-
got legs.
Do you know, we won
Yeah.
6-0, and it was the debuts of some of our favourite. Well, I say favourite, probably. Yeah, I want to say it. Some of my favourite footballers.
Who made a debut?
Mark Ritchie and Isaac Hayden
Right, thank you.
debuts,
Wow.
along with Matt Sells, now of Nottingham Forest, Dwight Gale, and Hazel Skelmos.
Right, okay. I'm going to just see if maybe misunderstood the assignment here.
Well, I haven't, because I've mentioned Milan, didn't I? But I'm just
Yeah.
also plugging Bohemians, because Dublin is also a great day out, great night
It
out.
is, absolutely. Simon,
Hi there.
I think you might have dropped yours in a bit there, but like,
Yeah.
if you're doing Dortmund, Borussia Dortmund, that's a better idea, isn't it? And then,
Yeah, well, I mean, Paris this week has been fantastic, and I did have some other games in mind in terms of just away games, and I've not been abroad. I hadn't been abroad until we went to Dortmund, so I didn't really know what to expect. Obviously, we've been to games like Arsenal and a few others, Rochdale, but those aren't in the same kind of category as getting a European trip away with your mates. And I think this one for us was more about the journey than the destination. So
yeah,
I didn't get a ticket, which is something I was seriously concerned about with Paris, it being a smaller stadium. But Dortmund seemed to be the most popular tie in the round for tickets in that, because obviously Milan, I think the tickets came out quite quickly because Hutch, you didn't get a ticket for Dortmund either.
No.
But yeah, I agreed that I was going to go anyway.
It was probably the popular trip out of the three for
Exactly, yeah.
for that group stage, wasn't it?
Yeah, so yeah, PSG, Milan, and Dortmund. What a group of death, by the way.
Oh yeah. Stunk, didn't it?
It did. It was outrageous. But yeah, so we decided we were going to Dortmund, and we had some more kind of travel incidents with this one again, which, I mean, Paris seems to fade into the background in comparison, but Dortmund seems to fade in the background in terms of the trouble that we had with Paris. But yeah, we stayed further towards. We were flying from Heathrow, I think, and we stayed down south with my family, so that we had an easy run over to the airport for the game the next day. And we woke up early in the morning to find an email saying our flight had been cancelled.
I think we were on our way to the airport.
We were actually right.
Going round and round and roundabout, didn't we?
We did. Yeah, we were leaving my car at the airport, and I had to just drive around a roundabout for 10 minutes while we decided what we were going to do. So you got on the phone to British Airways, and they sorted out with a flight to Germany. Now, Germany, everybody, is quite a big country. So we ended up flying to the south of Germany. I think it was Frankfurt, and Dortmund is all the way up in the north of Germany. So what then followed was another planes, trains, and automobiles to get us to the game. Luckily, this time we were flying over the day before the game, so we had a bit more wiggle room to play with. But we flew into Frankfurt, and then we got trains all the way up to Dortmund. Now, the bonus of that was that the trains in Germany are great. So we got a 4-seater, beers on the train, and just sat there for 3 hours enjoying the scenery while going through Germany as we made our way up to Dortmund, albeit not the direct route we'd chosen previously. But to be honest, it was a great and quite good fun adventure to have before we got to the game.
It was expensive, but like, you know, it
wasn't cheap.
Yeah, money a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, we had a nice time getting there anyway, and then we had a nice evening in Dortmund. We had like a nice dinner as soon as we got there, beers out, and the next day and the build up to the game was fantastic. The welcome we got from the Dortmund as Dortmund as a city and the Dortmund fans was great. That we had the square to ourselves. The atmosphere was great all day, no bother. Really good relations with the Dortmund fans, and then yourself and our friend went off to the game, Jamie, and me and Hutch. The only issue me and Hutch really had was there was nowhere to watch the game in town. It seems like the pub seemed to shut down as soon as the square emptied out. And then we went to we had to go to the ground, the pub attached to the ground, to watch the game. The game was forgettable, mostly because me and Hutch stood at the bar for 2 hours drinking soddily with a German fella.
Because Swiss money.
I don't know, Hutch. I think he's called Mark, and you keep telling me his name was something completely different.
Not important.
Anyway, yeah. So I had a good drink, and then went out into the town the night after that, and it was a great trip, end to end.
I need to interject there because when we were in the ground, and they do a thing where you can sit and watch the game with a beer, but it's a lower percentage beer. It's like 3-4%, and you were in a bar that's attached to the Dortmund stadium, and we came out of the stadium and found you, and you two were hammered, like really, really, really far gone, and we were just like absolutely. We were drunk, but we were just nowhere near where you guys were, and it ended the next day with it ended that night with you two bit blackout drunk, didn't it? Including a bit of a mess in the in the street, bit of a mess in the street. But German beer is chemical free and very strong, and pace yourself when you're going through it. Yeah,
it was a great trip, though.
I don't drink a lot because of a health condition, and I was kind of like taken back by because I had a bit to drink the day before, and I was fine. And then I think I kind of got ahead of myself.
Promise. Yeah.
False promise. And I was not fine.
Yeah. But we all had a good time, and that's what the most important.
It was a long old trip back, and I think an advantage of Paris was that it was we were directly back to Newcastle from Paris airport, whereas we had planes, trains, and automobile to get out of Germany, didn't we? But a big difference that you touched on there was that in Germany,
we actually nearly missed our train on the way back because of was one of us late or was the driver late? But as a consequence,
the taxi took forever to go and pick us up.
Taxi took a long time, but we didn't. But a big difference is that the German fans basically mixed with us in the ground.
Yeah,
they were fine with us throughout there, and like we didn't see any of that in France, as somebody asked earlier. But you have got to be a bit more careful in France and in other countries like Italy, Turkey, obviously. But Germany always great, and I'm going to take that a little bit because we are running out of time. But mine's going back even further to the last European campaign before the takeover, when we took off to Bruges for a Europa League group game. Now, what I would say is, if you're going to Bruges, it's a brilliant, brilliant city. Our mate Eli, who we met in a nice little act of symmetry, was going to Bruges the next week. And I said this to him, and I'll say this to anybody going there: watch the film in Bruges. It'll get you right in the mood for it. It's a film with Colin Farrell, Brendan Gleeson, and Ralph Fiennes. It's like a gangster film. It's brilliant. It's a black comedy. And it's a great movie to watch even if you're not going there. But we watched it in the build-up, and I noted a few locations that were in the film in Bruges, and we visited them. We visited the tower. We visited a couple of bars and restaurants, and did exactly what we did in Paris. Had a couple of days there. Our wives were with us, weren't they, Hutch? And I took my wife to the stadium. Anybody who was at that match will know we got marched miles to the stadium by the police. And like the whole game, I'm sitting there. It was a 2-2 draw. Any of you two want to remind me who the scorers were? Do you know?
Vernon and Anita scored one.
Big Vern, very good. And the other one?
I'm not sure because I had a very different experience of Bruges to you, Jamie.
It was, you had a great time in the square again, didn't you? But it was Shola Obi, Big Vern and Big Show. But the trip back was hanging over our head, and we ended up getting a lift back off a Bruges fan who I'm still friends with. So I'm going to give a shout out, as well as Eli earlier, I'm going to give a shout out to a friend from a long time ago, Mr. Philip Van Koot. Every time I link with anyone from the Belgian league, I ask him, and he always gives us a good rundown. He came over actually to see me, and I took him to St. James for a game a couple of years later. And every time it comes around, I'm thinking, we might get Bruges, but I don't think we'll be getting them in this campaign, so we'll see again. But great city for a trip, regardless of the football, and to go there with the entire city in Newcastle, because that's what these trips are like. Like, I was stood next to me postman in Paris, and you see people you've worked with, and in Bruges as well. I got my seat, and my cousin was in the seat next to me, which was crackers. So, great trips, and I think this last week's been one of the best memories. But we're going to move on. So we're running a little bit out of time. We've got about 6 minutes. So let's have a little look at the week ahead. Right. First of all, very quickly, we've got the second leg of the League Cup final against Man City. We're 2-0 down from the first leg. We look knackered. What do you think? Do we go for it to try and get something, or do we give it up? Simon?
Try for the first 45. If we're behind, pack it in and rest people, because we need to be looking after ourselves in the league at the moment as much as possible and trying our best to reach one of those European places. So, yeah, see how it goes first 45, play to win, but, yeah, start resting people if it's going the wrong way.
In a way, the worst scenario, I think, would be if we did score and started chasing the game, and then they just kind of, as we get into the last 10 minutes, they make it 3-1 on aggregate or whatever, and we've expended a load of energy. That's what's going to happen, isn't it? We expend a load of energy and so well. They seem what, Hutch?
They seem to have an absolutely elite front force, but a knackered defence. And, I mean, they were beating Tottenham this weekend 2-0, and then they've conceded 2 late goals to Tottenham. Solanke scored both, I believe. So I don't know. Do I want to say that it gives me some false hope? But I think, like Simon says, yeah.
If it was 1-0, maybe if it was 1-0 and they were playing poorly, you might think something. But that late goal at St. James just did it for me. So I think, change the team up. Still put a team out that can have a go, but I think you need to, like, as soon as Man City score, you need to have a game of who do we need to rest, preserve the most, and hold some folk off at half time or whenever. Because the Saturday afterwards, it is a Saturday, isn't it? We've got our only home game of the next month against Brentford. And we've really got to win that, haven't we, Hutch?
We do, yeah. Obviously, we're 10th at the present moment in time, but you can see us falling away, especially this month, considering we're playing a bunch of other difficult games. I think we've already talked about the fact that just after we fly to Baku, there and back, we then play Man City in the league as well. So it's, bearing in mind that the trip to France apparently knackered our squad out, a trip to Baku is going to do absolutely nothing for them.
True that.
That's very true. This is a good point by Wazza, because I think that would be bad. That would be very Newcastle, wouldn't it, if we did go there and won 2-0 and then yoinked it on penalties. But I think
actually, see, that would give me even more false hope, because we've actually been really good on penalties in the last few years.
Yeah, that's not wrong. And I'm just sharing this as well. Please, if you are watching on YouTube, hit the likes and subscribes. Help the channel grow as we move into radio land. I think we've not really made any contingency for potentially going to the League Cup final, have we? We'll have to have a desperate phone call if things start happening in that game.
Oh, we do love a desperate phone call.
Yeah. Yelling at each other and that, and getting angry. We need to book it now.
Well, at the same time,
tell your wife
politely negotiate. Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm just going to mute while I talk to my wife.
But I think
Book the hotel.
yeah,
Cancel the hotel.
you need to put like minimal energy in, focus on Brentford, and those 3 points are crucial and critical.
Are they on the swear list? Brentford, who also
Apparently,
beat Villa today as well, away.
with 10 men. They had someone
Unbelievable.
sent off before half time and they still hung on to beat Villa, who beat us last week.
Yeah.
Tore us apart down at Brentford.
Can I just ask a question, right? At what point in the game on Wednesday would it have to get to for you guys to seriously consider booking hotels?
Oh, God,
the final
that's
whistle with us winning.
I think.
Yeah, but those prices, Simon, those prices are just going to go up.
I know. I can feel the pressure call already. No, absolutely not.
I think if we were 5-0 up and they'd had their goalie sent off and Erling Haaland was in goal as an emergency, then I would be confident enough to book a hotel once the man put the injury time board up and not wait for the final whistle. But I'll tell you what, we might have to have that conversation in real time. It's mad, isn't it? After spending all them days together last week, we never even touched on this possibility because it's so remote. Stranger things have happened, but I think we agree. Our prediction is probably defeat there. And I think hopefully in a way that we can galvanise enough to get 3 points off Brentford, because then it goes on again.
Have you finished Stranger Things, Simon?
Not yet. I'm working on it.
I've told you, if you haven't finished it by the time of that game, I'm spoiling the ending. And you know what? We'd better finish soon, because anyone
Someone
in
will put
the
it in the
chat
comments.
who's got wind of that is going to go into the comments, I bet.
End it there.
So I think we've got 90s Mags coming up in 2 minutes on NUFC Talk TV and radio. In the meantime, as I said earlier, you can follow us online on X, Blue Sky, and Instagram. We are NUFC Comparison. No dots, lines, or spaces. So easy enough. Hope you've enjoyed us talking about our holiday tonight, amongst other things. And for you lads, I've had quite enough of seeing and speaking to you for a while, but I'll catch you for Brentford next weekend, if not before.
Yeah, let's leave it for a week.
If not for that emergency League Cup final call that we may have on Wednesday. To everyone out there in Radioland, Podland, and England, thanks for listening. See you next time.
Cheers, everybody.
Bye.